I was at my local watering hole the other day having a beer, and a guy sitting next to me asked, "What can you tell me about property rights?" "What's the issue?" I said. "The issue is my asshole neighbor is dumping on my property and the government won't do anything about it." I said, "That's because the problem isn't that the government won't do anything about it. It's that government is the problem." He responded with, "Oh, so you're decided to be an asshole by making fun of my situation?" "No, sir. Hadn't decided that at all. I was just quoting Ronald Reagan." Hello, folks. My name is Ernest. Thank you for being here. You wouldn't believe how much I hear of this kind of thing, especially from people at my local watering hole, because they know about my show and I have the unofficial title of Mr. Know It All. They're joking, of course, but every now and then someone unfamiliar reaches out to me and will strike up a conversation about government, namely their dissatisfaction with it. Now, if you don't know this, perhaps you haven't listened to very many of my episodes, or perhaps you're tuning in for the first time. I'm not exactly what you might call the shy or withdrawn introverted type. If you show up knocking on my door unexpected, for example, especially if you wake me out of a sound sleep, I will spring open the door and ask you who you are and what the fuck do you want. And that's when I'm being pleasant. On the other hand, you will typically see a much better side of me when I'm in my element, at my local watering hole, drinking beer and engaging in interesting conversation, which I could do a lot more of if some of you stingy bastards out there would actually go to my website and buy one of my damn tote bags. Because I happen to agree with the late great poet and writer Charles Bukowski that the best cheap booze in the world is the booze that someone else pays for. Just a brief message. If you've already subscribed, I very much thank you. And if you haven't, please consider doing so, because if you're enjoying this episode, by clicking on the subscribe button as well as the notification bell is how the channel grows. And do feel free to comment, because I'm an actual person. No AI. I read, respond, and appreciate all. Now, back to the episode. So, getting back to the often nauseating topic of government, it really does amaze me how anyone in America in the year 2025 actually has any expectation whatsoever that the government is in any way, shape, or form here to actually do anything for them in any real caring capacity whatsoever. Going to the government hat in hand, for those of you old enough to know what that phrase means, is the equivalent of asking a long gone ex to fuck you because you're extremely lonely, just for old time's sake. Actually, I admit I did totally do that once, and it did actually work. But in all seriousness, if you are expecting any real functionality from the government, that shit basically ended in the Eisenhower administration. So you are very late for that party. Allow me to introduce you to the current reality. To put this as succinctly as I believe is possible, just take John F. Kennedy's famous inaugural speech in 1961 and put it in reverse. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor, light our country and all who serve it, and the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what you can do for your country, but ask what your country can do for you. I simply cannot understand how so many people in America don't understand the current social contract between themselves and their representatives in the U.S. government. I don't understand, for example, why the vast majority of folks out there still actually expect the senator or congressman they voted for and subsequently put into office to represent their interest in the issues that affect their life the most, when there is a multitude of much more important issues that corporate lobbyists have paid a tremendous amount of money for that obviously need to be addressed first. There is the undeniable fact that the vast majority of consumers, sorry, but I have to be technically correct, America has not really had citizens since the Eisenhower administration, totally identify not only with corporate branding, but will defend that brand at all cost, and the government and or any other outdated social representation of individual rights and or freedoms is not only inherently wrong, but should be avoided at all cost. I'd like to wrap this up, so I'll just say this. I simply cannot understand why in any way, shape, or form, after senators and or congressmen are elected, that there is any expectation whatsoever that they would act in the best interest of the population that elected them, and not instead do what is completely predictable, act in the best interest of the corporations and the corporate lobbyists that bankrolled their election in the first place. Yep, I just can't wrap my head around that. I can't understand why you simply won't keep acting and voting against your own and family's best interest. All you have to do is keep your favorite politicians elected and on the corporate payroll. Is that so much to ask? In all humility, I simply ask, would you please stop expecting the government and your representatives to actually do anything in your interest whatsoever? Please? Please? Until next time, this is Ernest. And that's all I've got for today.